Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Tell the tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Fullback, you tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by this and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. If you want to email the show, you can send a message to PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text the show at 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside Tim live in Green Bay. Got us a new little backdrop here, just getting ready for the Pittsburgh game. I know we're just hanging out over top of Acrisure Stadium. Now, we're still going to call it Heinz Field.
Man, that's Heinz Field, man. I know Heinz Field when I see it.
Exactly. How you doing, Tim?
Man, doing good, man. It's a nice Saturday. Good way to end the day, man. Little Packers Total Access, ready to go, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Got me a cup of coffee, trying to stay awake, you know. I know you said you took a nap earlier too, man. I crashed out, so man, it sucks getting old. It sucks getting old. Anyway, we got all kinds of people here in the chat. We got Omer in the house. We've got Josh Martin, United Bates, Larry up in here, Marbley, Ian. Appreciate you guys swinging through. Good to see all you guys in here. United Bates always leading the charge. I love it, man. Let's go to the super chat real quick. Josh Martin, thank you for the super chat. He says, we need to go 7-2 in the next 9 games. Tough task. Very tough task. No doubt about it. So, yeah, 9, what would that do? That would give us, 11 wins? Is that right, Tim?
I believe so, yeah.
I think so. All right. So, yeah, I think 11 would definitely get you in. 10 might get you in. Some people believe 9 would get you in the NFC. And it all, is going to be determined by how, things unfold here in the next couple of weeks. There's going to be a lot of games to watch tomorrow for sure as we start into the second half of the season. I just think it's cool that we've got an opportunity, right, to put ourselves in a position to make the playoffs. Highly unlikely with where we sit right now at 3-5, obviously. But, we went into the season kind of talking about, all right, it looks like it's probably going to be 6 to 10 wins. We're sitting right there in that ballpark, Tim. Now let's see if they can overperform, right, outperform that take, or, if they fall short, depends on how short they fall, will determine whose jobs are on the line and whose aren't, right? So what do you think, man? You feel good about that, going 7-2 in the next 9 games? What do you think, man?
I mean, you know me. I'm an optimist. I believe in our team almost to a fault. I fan with my heart a lot. But I'll tell you this, the Packers got to do something first before we could even talk about, 7-2 or 9-0 down the stretch. Whatever we want to say is they have to win this football game tomorrow because they have not won 2 games in a row all year. This team has to prove to themselves and to us that they can win back-to-back ball games. So you get this dub tomorrow and you build from that. You're on a 2-game win streak. You're coming back home. You got the Chargers, a Charger team that's not a pushover, but a team that is certainly someone you can beat. And then we start talking about, okay, let's go on a run. We got tough games coming up with Detroit and Kansas City. Probably looking at maybe dropping at least one of those. I believe that we can win one of those. But no, it starts tomorrow. First things first. Let's get our second win in the row for the first time this year. Let's win back-to-back games, man. Keep building momentum moving forward. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Evaluation, creating momentum, and carrying that momentum into next year, right?
Yep.
That's going to be the big test for me. And I don't know, man, I'm really excited to see Carrington Valentine and even a little bit of Valentine out there as well. Corey.
Oh,
Valentine.
I got to shout out my wife since we're mentioning this. My wife came up with the name, man. You ready for this?
Let's hear it.
She said, well, we might get to see Bal and Val tomorrow.
Oh, let's go, dude.
I like it. Bal and Val on the sidelines. That's what's up. That's your corners more than likely tomorrow, right? Bal and Val, let's get it.
Imagine spending – I love your optimism. Imagine spending 2 first-round picks on corners and neither of them being out there.
Right,
Sucks,
right.
dude. It's like, how in the world?
And we got two seventh rounders. Wait, was Valentine a sixth or seventh round? Or
That's a great question. I'm not sure.
We got to get on that.
We'll go to the chat for that one, guys. Look it up for us. When was Valentine drafted, or was he undrafted?
Why? Yeah, was he even drafted? Well, that would be a story, right?
Right. Larry in here bringing the facts. He says, "Thank you to all who have served the good old USA and the countries of our allies." Amen.
Well
to
said.
that, man.
I like that, Larry. And the countries of our allies. I like that.
And our man United Bates, obviously a man who's laid his life on the line for the country, says, "Right on, happy Veterans Day." Absolutely love it, love it, love it, love it. Let's see here. Ian in the chat says Jordan Love's going to show up tomorrow. What do you think, Tim? You think Jordan comes out and has a big game? I mean, we're going to talk about some of the receiving targets. We might get off track right now, Tim, and jump right into it. But what do you think about Jordan's chances tomorrow, man?
I believe in Jordan. I've been carrying the torch for him for a while, and more importantly than a big, huge game, we talk about getting him over at 300-yard mark. We'd like to see 300-400 yards of passing, a couple tutties, that kind of thing. What I'm looking for is just mistake-free football. Making the right decision, pre-snap, post-snap, trusting yourself, trusting your receivers. Sometimes in order to build trust, you've got to give. You got to give a little trust and be willing to lay that ball out there. If you see a guy's got to step on his man, throw it. Don't pat the ball. Don't stand in the pocket and go to your second or third progression. If you see it, throw it. I'm looking for mistake-free ball out of Jordan, which, we had a pretty good game out of him last week. No picks, nothing crazy. So I'm hoping for just a mistake-free game from him. And, as far as having a huge game, that would be great. That'd be icing on the cake. But how about just mistake-free ball, throwing in rhythm, on time, on target, and we'll go from there. That's what I'm looking for from Jay Money tomorrow.
Definitely. Paul Robertson in the chat says, "Does Clayton have that big old coffee mug again?"
Uh-oh.
Yes, we do, Paul. Yes, we do.
Oh man, I got bottled water. I feel I wasn't invited to the party. Sorry. Oh, hey, there it is.
Packed up too, man. Hey, this right here, best water on the planet. Cumberland Gap Spring Water. Sponsor the show. Great water. Great water. Straight from the hills of the Cumberland Gap. You know how that goes, Tim. That stuff's probably bottled in Chicago or something. Who knows, right? Anyway, yeah, we got the big mug out tonight, no doubt. Josh Martin says Clayton still sucks at math. We would end 10-5 if we won 7 games. Math is hard, man. Numbers are hard. So appreciate you clarifying that. All right, let's see what else we got here real quick. Carly Ray doing the math or doing the legwork for us. Let's see. Valentine, 7th round. Okay, got it. Valentine was selected in the 7th round, not 2nd, 7th. She clarifies. And then Valentine was drafted in 2019, 6th round pick. 18th pick overall by the Giants. Got it. Okay, cool.
Good guess there. I was close. 6th round. All right.
Yeah, still hanging around, man. Still hanging around.
And you know what, though? At the end of the day, it proves what we said, man. It don't matter where you're drafted. Who's producing on the field?
Right.
Like, wouldn't be the first time we've had late round picks end up being key performers for us. We've done this before in Green Bay.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Paul Robertson said Clayton got a chaser. LOL. Now, ain't no chaser here, man. This is straight espresso with some cream and some sugar. Get you amped up a little bit. When you're old like me and it gets after 7 o'clock, you got to have a little coffee to stay awake and even have a conversation. So that's just the way it goes. I like this one right here. United Bates said, how about the nickname Time Time? All right. Okay. Throw them out there, guys. I think Mrs. Green is sold on Bow and Vow, though, right? So
we'll see which one sticks. We'll try them both,
Exactly. All right. So we kind of talked about, Jordan Love, and obviously thank you for the super chat there. I believe that was Josh Martin. Thank you so much. The comment about Jordan Love, when you talk about the targets, if I were to ask you, Tim, and I know we kind of talked about this offline, but before I told you the numbers, right, the efficiency, if you will, who would you say, and you may still feel like that, who would you say is Jordan Love's, before we talked about it, who would you have said Jordan Love's most trusted target, maybe not trust is the right word, most efficient target would be? Just kind of from a bird's eye view, watching the season, who would you think? Yeah, that's his go-to guy. Because me originally, it probably would have been Dobbs. I would have thought, hey,
Yeah, I
Romeo
was going to
Dobbs.
say Rome. I was going to say Rome for sure. Would have been my first guess.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit different insight into this though now.
Absolutely. So one of the stats that I like to look at, and the PTA Live symbol is actually covering it up, excuse me, is QB rating when targeted. Okay. And what that basically means is what's the quarterback's rating when this receiver or this, whatever, weapon, tight end, running back, wide receiver, skill position, if you will, when they're targeted, what is the quarterback's passer rating? Okay. Luke Musgrave, this is all just sorted for the Packers. Luke Musgrave comes in at the top. I think it was 105.5, I believe was what it was. Second is Dontavian Wicks at 101.5. Third is Josiah DeGuara at 100.5, but keep in mind, only 8 targets. By the way, doesn't have a drop this year. I think he's caught all 8 targets, as a matter of fact. Jaden Reed, 99.3. Then Aaron Jones, 98.1. A.J. Dillon, 97.3. Ben Sims, only 2 targets, 95.8. Emmanuel Wilson, only 3 targets, 86.1. Then Romeo Dobbs at 80.2. You got to go all the way down to 12th to find Christian Watson, where the passer rating when targeted is 47.9. What's crazy is Christian Watson has 0 drops this year too. And that kind of surprised me because it just kind of feels like every time Jordan goes to him, something goes wrong, right? This year's just kind of been bad luck, if you will. So with that being said, Tim, we got to get Luke Musgrave and Dontavian Wicks more opportunities, man. I mean, Musgrave is on pace, I think they said, to break the Packers rookie receptions record, which is, I think, held by James Lofton, if I understood correctly. So pretty cool stuff that you got 2 rookies there, right? And then Jaden Reed in the number 4 spot at 99.3. It kind of goes back to what you just said about the DBs and the late round picks, man. You got to go with the hot hand. You got to go with the guys who are making plays, man. Forget the draft status. I don't care where you were drafted. I don't care how much money you're making. You put the best 11 out there to go win. But that's really exciting stuff about Luke Musgrave. That kind of surprised me. Does that surprise you too?
Yeah, it's a bit surprising. Again, I'm a guy who fans with my heart and not my brain as much. I'm trying to get better at that. But like you said, it has that feel. Like we know about the relationship that Dobbs and J Love have. There's a chemistry there, a connection, off-season workouts. He certainly feels like the comfortable target for him, but numbers don't lie. And this reminds me of a great point that you made a couple shows ago when we were talking about personnel and what personnel are we going to run in these situations. And you and I both agreed that, we'd like to see a little less 12, maybe a little more 11. And I think, having this conversation makes me want that even more. Let's see 11 personnel. Musgrave's that tight end out there, and let's utilize him. We don't need Musgrave on a SIF block. We don't, we want to see if we can get him going. And, we've heard Carly Ray talk about the baby giraffe syndrome with yards after the catch with him.
Right.
I want to see more of it because, like a baby giraffe, the more they run around, they eventually find their balance and they find their stride. So I think maybe that'll help. Same thing with our baby giraffe, right? Luke Musgrave catching that ball, in space and having to turn upfield. I think the more he does it, we're going to see more yards after the catch. And I think he'll look a little more graceful doing it as we move forward. But I'm with you, Clayton, man. We need to get him the ball. Almost like we talk about making sure Aaron Jones gets his touches in this offense so that we can really fire on all cylinders. We need to involve Luke Musgrave in the passing game, especially, I think, in this matchup.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I don't know. It's exciting to think of the upside that Musgrave has. And, we've talked about it over and over. We knew he was going to be a raw talent, right? He was someone who missed pretty much the whole season last year, but the year before, you go back and watch the tape, you could really see the flashes. There's no doubt about it. I like him on the leaks and being that safety valve, but also, that Y cross. You running that Y crosser, that's where he's really going to separate himself, especially if you give 2 more options the way we like to boot left two options underneath with another tight end leaking out the other side if you're in 12. It's exciting to see what Musgrave can do. I'd like to see him come up and just have a big game tomorrow. And you get that first touchdown out of the way like you did last week, things can really open up for you. There's no doubt. Everybody in the chat kind of thought the same thing. Dobbs, United Bates says, I was thinking Dobbs. That was Josh Martin that said Dobbs as well. Josh Martin, yes, same here. Let's see. Bleeding Green, man, just woke up. He said, dang, I'm late. Welcome to the chat, buddy. Let's see. Carly Ray, we're some stat nuts. I would much rather – she says, man, the stats they keep track of. I would much rather lean on the tape, but you can only watch the tape so many times before you know what I mean? You want to turn to something else. So we like to cover all the bases. I want the analytics. I want the statistics. I want the PFF grades. I want to watch the tape myself. And I want to try to understand exactly, what approach they're trying to take. Like Tim said, my opinion hasn't changed. I want to see them in 11 personnel. And if anything, what it means is fresher legs. If you've got Dontavian Wicks, who's really starting to flash, and Paul Brettel talked about it on Twitter. I think he wrote an article on it, how PFF actually has Dontavian Wicks, well above anyone else on the Packers roster as far as separation that he's created in his routes, right? So it doesn't mean, okay, let's make Dontavian Wicks the number one receiver. But what it does mean is, let's say you had a 60%, rotational rate, right, with the receivers. Well, why not amp that up a little bit? You know what I mean? Why not have it more of a 50-50, right? And split the reps. What do you got to lose, right? I think the more you get him involved and the more chemistry you can create with him and Jordan would be absolutely huge. There's no doubt about it. So, all right, let's see here. We got Tolger with the super chat. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Said, sorry, a bit off topic, but just watch QB School on Bryce Young and what he has to deal with. Love has it 100 times better. And he puts in parentheses some evil thoughts, but was just thinking, how would Bryce do on the Packers? That's a great question. Again, when we talked about it the other night, I think it was me and Jake Shavink actually talked about it on his pod, if I remember correctly. Bryce is surrounded by a dumpster fire. And what's crazy is, you bring in Adam Thielen, it's a solid player, right? He's got some pieces around him, but when you bring in Frank Reich, and Frank Reich, of course, bombed out in Indy completely, right? And, of course, people immediately say, well, look at what Coach Peterson's doing in Jacksonville. The RPO game is still working down there. Yes, it is. There's a lot more pieces in place in Jacksonville, and it just kind of shows you that Doug Peterson was the magic to that first Philly Super Bowl run, right? And Frank Reich got a head coaching job from it by being the OC, obviously. With that being said, you've got to dig a little bit deeper and try to realize, okay, who really deserves the praise? Not that they want it, but that's how you can determine, okay, what's making a team go. Like you look at Detroit, obviously their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, probably going to be a head coach next year. There's a good possibility, right? We're going to find out real quick. Was it more Dan Campbell, who obviously was a tight end in the league, right? Or was it Ben Johnson and his play calling abilities and abilities to put together an offensive game plan, right? That's what's beautiful about the league. It's set up for parity, right? So constantly what's going to happen is as soon as a team reaches that peak, they're going to get stripped of everyone, right, from their coaching staff. And also they're going to get the worst pick, right? They're probably using the most cap space. So their cap situation has got to come back down to earth, all those things that really creates this rotation of which teams are actually good all the time. That's what makes the NFL so great, for sure.
And it's why it's so hard to repeat as champion. It's been so
absolutely.
long since we've seen back-to-back titles because of how difficult it truly is to keep a staff. I mean, I think it's only more difficult probably in the college game, right, where you're cycling players every couple of years. But as far as staff, though, I mean, you want stability. It can be tough. It can be tough in this league, win or lose, because you guys heads start rolling when you're losing too.
Hey, we've heard it here, haven't we?
Yep.
It's another thing too. Look at the Packers, right? They were at the top of the mountain. I know they didn't win the Super Bowl, but they were right there at the summit, right? And what happened? Their coaching staff gets completely stripped. Nathaniel Hackett goes to Denver, right? So you replace him with Luke Getsy. You do it again, then Luke Getsy gets his job. I'm pretty sure there was a year in between those two guys moving on. Luke Getsy goes on to be OC in Chicago, right? Which, in my opinion, he's starting to do some pretty remarkable things in Chicago, right? It's starting to kind of come together. But again, with Coach LaFleur, his entire coaching staff's getting stripped down, right? And he's having to rebuild that. So that's what makes the league great. Again, it's frustrating as a Packer fan because it's like, man, I'd love to keep those guys together. But that's just the way the game goes, right? Let's see. Paul Robertson here in the chat says there aren't a lot of tight ends that can stretch the field like Musgrave. I completely agree. He's an athletic freak. You know, one of the things that I really wanted to accomplish on that Chalk Talk where I showed the double swing fake Y-leak, or what they refer to as Hollywood, was not just him, you know, selling the block, having the hands to make the catch, but the move he put on the safety. Like that safety thought, okay, this big fella, I just need to rein him in here. He put his foot in the ground and just smoked him. Yep. You know, that's a free safety that he smoked. So got a ton of athleticism there for sure. Josh Martin, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, who's the biggest surprise and disappointment? This is a good one here, Tim. The answer is always, you know, the first thing that comes to mind, right? The biggest surprise, and I'm assuming you're talking about a positive, right? The first thing that comes to mind for me is Carrington Valentine. Yeah, that's the big one for me. We've seen it in camp. Maybe we shouldn't be surprised, but I just hope he keeps up, you know, the level of play that he's at because, again, just hearing Coach Stoops from Kentucky talk about how he was the emotional leader of that secondary, man, it's that's someone that you want to kind of develop into a young leader on this team in that secondary, especially with Ja. Ja seems to like to play with him too. I mean, he said last week, Tim, there's nobody else I'd rather line up next to than Carrington Valentine. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool praise from a Pro Bowl caliber corner. But who would be your biggest surprise, Tim?
You know, I would agree with you. Of course, I'm a defensive guy, so Valentine would be on my list. But in the interest of mixing it up a little, I'll move to the offensive side of the ball, and we'll go with Don Wicks. You know, I guess surprise might not be the best way to describe him because I think a lot of us really saw some flashes in camp, and we kind of expected that he was going to make a splash, to say the least. But I guess the biggest surprise to me is, you know, seeing Don Wicks out there, in addition to Jaden Reed. And, you know, we've got guys that I've said this 1,000 times, they don't play like rookies. So that's a big surprise to me. You know, we were going into this year and we got to be patient, growing pains. And we've had growing pains. Don't get me wrong. We've had some mistakes here, but I mean, I guess I expected it to be a lot worse with some of these young receivers, and it just hasn't been. And that's a credit to Dontavian Wicks and guys like Jaden Reed. So I'm going to go with Tay Wicks as my biggest surprise.
Got it. All right. Now, disappointment, biggest disappointment this year. Again, you got to go with the first thing that comes to mind. And for me, it's Christian Watson. And that's not the dog on Watson. It's not that I'm saying he's a disappointment. He's not a good player. It's just that it didn't click, right? It hasn't clicked yet. Obviously, battling the injuries coming out of camp, all those things. I just really, really wanted him to be that guy that separated himself as the number one receiver. And he may do that here in the second half like he did last year. But that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. And I will say this, who was it? Someone in the chat here. Mike L in the chat says, bad throws to Watson, not all bad luck, unfortunately. I'm still high on Watson. I am too. I'll tell you, that catch he made last week was phenomenal, man. It was a great catch. Horrible ball. And it's a great example, you know, talking about bad throws and just some bad luck there for sure. But, yeah, Tim, disappointment for you, buddy. What do you think?
Other than our record,
Hey, that could be one, right?
No, if we're sticking with personnel, I guess I'll go back to the defense. And it's not who, it's more about what. And I'll just say Darnell Savage. You know, we already knew we were in that situation where he's got the bag. You know, we paid him a lot of money. He was going to start. And then, you know, with injuries and setbacks, I guess the disappointment comes from just him not being on the field. You know, now granted, there's a silver lining in there because, you know, one of my favorites, we get to see Anthony Johnson Jr. a little more. One of your favorites, obviously, Rudy Ford, got to step up throughout camp and into the season. And we're seeing, you know, more Jonathan Owens, some of these other guys that were brought in to, you know, carry the torch and fill that void back there. But Yeah, I think Darnell Savage, his play has been less than stellar when he was healthy, so that's kind of disappointing too. But he also had a couple really good games this year too before the injury. And as I've always said about Darnell, is that he's a great teammate and a good locker room guy in there. Positive impact on our locker room and in that safety room for sure. Working with a lot of these young guys in the secondary, but I think it's just disappointing that we're not going to see much of him. It looks like this year, so that's disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, again, $7 million, right? And kind of makes you think that Goody had a pretty good idea of the market, and they thought there were other people high on him. And if they did let him test the market, he'd probably get, they'd probably get outbid for him. Again, I was of the opinion, let him walk, but if you come back and you get a good deal on him, great, right? But I can understand that being a disappointment too, for sure. Bleed Green, thank you so much for the donation there, buddy. We really, really appreciate it. And we'll keep an eye out in case you meant to put a super chat in there just in case. Let's see. Robert Allen in the chat said, we still haven't seen Love string together a series of throws like he did in the Philly game last year. That would be progress. Completely agree with that. He says, Bryce really struggling. Carolina's crying about missing out on Stroud. King over TJ Watt could be a long cry. I'm sorry to have TJ Watt on the screen. I didn't even think about it, but there he is, right?
Guys, we got to live this thing down at some point, though, right?
No way, Tim. It ain't happening.
We can't just, I mean, do we have to wait until Watt retires for this to be over with? Hey, we heard Carrington Valentine say, right? Short memory, guys. Even when good things happen, even when bad things happen, we got to let go. TJ Watt's not going to be a Packer. The ship has sailed. I'm sorry. And, say what you want about Kevin King, but, he had his moments. We'll just leave it at that. I mean, it wasn't all bad for Kevin King, just mostly bad, I guess. Right.
Yeah. Ryan did a good job of kind of documenting that whole thing, right? Because people did make Kevin King out to be like the worst player in the league. Now, listen, I understand exactly what Robert Allen's saying here in the chat. Tim, I'll go ahead and ask you the question. If we could redraft tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, we take TJ Watt, of course. I mean, so I'm not disagreeing with anyone there. All I'm saying is, guys, like,
let it go.
We can't hold on to that energy. Well, if it's the same thing with Tony Mandarich and Barry Sanders, right?
Oh,
how long have we still hear about this?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I don't want to do that again, guys. We got to get past it.
Yeah, no doubt. Y'all better watch it, man. You keep bringing this up about TJ Watt. My man Tim, he's in here.
Chip, I'm all jacked up on Mountain
You better watch. I'm telling you, don't know what he's got in that cup over there. Now, I think it is a great point, but I understand what you're saying too, Tim, for sure. Let's see here. Paul Robertson says the owner in Carolina intervened in draft process and demanded Bryce Young while management wanted Stroud. It's funny that
we had problems in our office.
It's funny you bring that up, Paul, because, as I was reading that, I'm going, I do remember them being high on Stroud. Remember, it was Josh McCown, right? Actually dapped him up when he was visiting. And there with the team, he said, hey, man, looking forward to playing some hoops, shooting some hoops with you down here, like as if they were going to take him. Now, here's the thing about, I think it's Tepper, is that his name? One of the wealthiest men in the I think he's the second wealthiest owner in the league, if I remember correctly. He's gotten all the success that he's gotten in his life. He is a guy that operates with a chip on his shoulder. There was a story that someone that kind of crossed him on his coming up, right? I don't know all the details of their business dealings and what went sour, but essentially what he ended up doing was buying the guy's house after he pretty much made it. He bought the guy's house and had it destroyed, had it basically just tore it to the ground. He's that kind of guy, right?
Man.
And he's one of those guys that he does things his way. I think if there's an owner in the league that's closest to Jerry Jones in his prime, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, go find some documentaries on Jerry Jones back in the 90s, at late 80s, early 90s. He came in a wildcat driller, and that dude flipped the league upside down. Basically, the league said, look, we're all going to wear the same stuff. We're all going to have the same endorsement deals. Jerry said, no, I want Nike to represent the Cowboys. And they were like, you can't do that. The very next day, the very next game, I think it was Monday Night Football too, he had the CEO of Nike on the sideline with him just to rub it in the other owners' faces. Like, he was that kind of guy. I get that same kind of vibe from Carolina's owner for sure. I don't know if that's a good I think it's a good thing as a businessman. It's just at the same time, what do you know about football? You know what I mean? And
Right.
why
And
would
what
you
does that
try-
say to your staff when you pay someone or bring someone in to do a job and then you undermine their expertise throughout the process?
All right.
You know?
It's just another reason that I'm so glad the Packers don't have an owner, man.
Yep.
I'm just being real about it. But that's I love our setup for sure. Togrel, thank you for the super chat. It says Kenny Clark got the contract and went airplane mode. You know,
Togro dropping $2 bombs today, man.
hey, I love Kenny Clark as a person. I think his story is amazing. I think he's a great human being. I think he plays hard. I don't think you ever see a play where he takes a play off. So when you say airplane mode, I definitely, I disagree if that's what you mean, but there's no denying that he has not performed the last 3 years. Ever since Mike Daniels was next to him in the gap, he hasn't performed, and there's a lot of people that refuse to believe that. And they're the same people who have podcasts and they make fun of people for watching the tape. Right.
Right.
But, it is what it is, man. When someone's got a $27 million cap hit, you've got to go out there and play like one of the top three at your position. If you don't, then that's a bad move. It's that simple. They moved him off the nose starting, I believe, before last year. A lot of people were a little late to the party to that. They seem to think it just happened last year, and it's like, no, they had already started to do that. They already started to move him off the nose and move him around and try to get some separation, try to get him in that 3-tech, try to get him singled up on the outside shoulder of a guard with the center having to occupy the 1-tech on the opposite side. But he's definitely underperformed. There's no doubt about it. Now, when he flashes and you see him, Tim, he looks good. But especially in the running game, it's just he's kind of struggled in the running game. And I think we actually looked at it the other day. I'll pull it up real quick. I believe I've still got it here. Yeah, in our base defense, it should show. Yeah, his PFF grade is 56.7 right now. So, and we actually have an updated PFF. I didn't download them, but it is showing it like with Ballantyne, which you see Jair Alexander with the 65.6. Ballantyne is actually 66 is what he's graded. He's graded higher than both Ballantyne and Alexander. So let's give him a shot, you know what I mean, and see if he can put it together. But again, Kenny Clark, I don't know about airplane mode, although it is a funny comment. Like you said, he's dropping $2 bombs in here, Toggle is. But what do you think, man, Kenny? It's tough, man. I think I just don't know how it's going to play out, Tim, moving forward. And sure enough, I deleted I get it right here, the contract information that we can hit on if you want to as far as next year's cap hit. But any thoughts come to mind there with Kenny?
No, I can't really say much that you didn't already hit on. Again, Kenny is a great person. Had the ability to spend a little time watching him work up close over the summer. He does bring a sense of leadership to this locker room and to that defensive front with a lot of the young talent that we do have. But yeah, at this level, man, you're right. It's a business. And if you're not producing, if you're not executing and you're demanding a big chunk of paycheck, yeah, it's time for an organization to reassess what's going on. Like you said, we can get into the numbers, but put it this way, it's almost that's probably the more holding more weight in this situation than Kenny's actual play on the field, because it hasn't really been there as much these past couple of years. But hey, he could break out and have a hell of a game at any point here and start playing at a high level again. But yeah, Kenny's been through a lot of things in his life personally recently. And of course, physically too. Your body does break down as you grind through a career, especially playing in the trenches like these guys do. So not making excuses. Tape doesn't lie. You see it, you got to say it. This is not the same Kenny Clark we've been used to. And we'd like to see him improve, but we're going to have tough decisions to make going into next year for sure. So the best case scenario, I'd like to see him end this year on a high note.
Yeah,
I really would.
Josh Martin, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, Packers fans crying about Watt. PFF, remember the Bills could have had Mahomes and Jefferson, but trade both those picks away. It could be worse, people. There's misses all across the league. The other one with Pat Mahomes, too. Didn't the Bears take Mitch Trubisky over Pat Mahomes? Am I thinking right?
Yeah.
That was
Oh
the same
yeah. Well,
draft.
we are, but that's we can't laugh at that. The Bears don't know how to draft. We know that. We
You
know
don't get
that.
any pleasure
Hey,
out of making
how
fun of
many-
corners that bad.
How many starting quarterbacks? Let's just start with quarterback.
Oh, man.
But I also like. I don't think he was saying PFF. I think that was supposed to be. I think that was his little sound effect. Packers fans crying about what? Remember, the Bills could have had Mahomes and Jefferson, but
You're
Trey
right. I
Lance-
said PFF like every single time. I'll tell you what, man.
No, but that I totally
No,
agree.
it's bad, Tim. I tell you, I get zoned out over here. People would think I'm on the devil's lettuce or something, man.
On that lettuce.
No, but there are misses everywhere. There's no doubt about it, man.
Yep.
I like this right here. Paul Robertson said Jerry Jones tried to go rogue and become the Yankees before baseball had a salary cap. You know what's really cool? Another thing that Jerry Jones did, I'm not trying to turn this into a Cowboys podcast, but if you guys haven't watched Jerry Jones of Football Life, it's worth a watch. It's really good. It is really, really good. But one of the things that he did, Tim, they were having to sub out these companies to come in and kind of cater the football games, right? The concessions and all that stuff and buying the food, right? You got to have suppliers to buy the food from. He actually got with George Steinbrenner, and who owned the Yankees at the time, obviously was still with us. And what he did was they got together and said, why don't we create a company that actually manages the food? So they both went in business together and they bought the stadium food off themselves to make even more profit. It's just, that's what Jerry Jones does. And if you're a big fan of business like I am, like that stuff just gets your gears turning. And there's so many opportunities around us every day. And we're taught from a young child that, listen, guys, this is what you've got to do. You've got to go make good grades. You got to go to college. You got to listen to your guidance counselor and make sure that they get you in the right spot so you can go get a 4-year degree and go in debt above your eyeballs, okay? And then when you get out, then you can decide what you want to do. What? You go spend, I don't even know what college costs nowadays, 30 grand, 60 grand, 80 grand, whatever it is.
A semester?
Yeah, and not even know what it is you want to do with your life. Like, it should all start with, what are you passionate about? What can you say? If I did that every day of my life, I would feel like I didn't even have a job, right? That type of thing. I love seeing young people, especially, the light come on and go, wait a minute, I have the opportunity to write my life on paper and say, here's what my life's going to be, rather than other people saying, oh, you'll figure it out, but you got to go to school. You got to go do this right now. And I'm not knocking college. I would have went to college if I got a full scholarship. They told me it was a 50% scholarship to play baseball at Tennessee Westland. I went, what's that mean? It means you got to pay for 50% of the tuition. I'm like, kidding me, dude? Like, our power got cut off last week at the house. You think I can? No. And I'll never forget. I don't mean to go on.
How am I supposed to pay 50% of the tuition if I'm playing baseball and going to school?
Right. And
Where's the money coming from?
Exactly. I will never forget. When I said that to our school counselor, which she wore many hats, great lady, great woman. I'll never forget her looking at me and go, Clayton, there's loans for that. I went, you think I'm gonna go in debt to go to school? You've lost your mind. So, long story short, I remember moving a good friend of mine, helped move him up from school. He graduated college and moved him into his new apartment, and he didn't even have money to buy a TV. I had been working for 4 years and making a ton of money just working with a high school education. But I don't know. It's just something about, I just love seeing that light come on in people's eyes and having a vision for what they want their life to be. I'm a sucker for that type of stuff. And I know people probably think it's cheesy, but that's just the way it is. Robert Allen, he said, I wasn't crying about TJ. I was saying Stroud pick will live in infamy in Carolina. It's early, Robert, but as of right now, if Stroud keeps playing the way he is, what is it, Tim? 14 touchdowns, 1 pick? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I mean, something insane. Madden number type insanity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Drew D in the chat says, I think we overused Clark because he played like 90% of the snaps for years. That's the other thing too. You know, he came in the league so young, right? So when you see that he's 27 now, I think he is.
I think so. Yeah. Is it
you think, oh, he's still young. No, there's a lot of wear on that. That's a 27-year-old that's probably beaten up like a 29-year-old,
Right.
just
And
because
then
he's
in a
playing.
27 and a 29-year-old in NFL years, your body is like, like us, like a 40 plus year old physically.
Those afternoon naps and 9 o'clock cups of coffee to do a podcast, right? That's what that is right there. So, let's see. Paul Robertson pointed out the Bears did trade up to get Mitch Trubisky.
Whew,
Pretty wild. That's a tough
whiff,
one there,
swing and a miss.
no doubt. Jake Shavink in the house said Green Bay could have taken Hurts. The Jets could have had Josh Allen. The Cardinals could have had Lamar. We could do this all month long. No doubt about it. And I guarantee you, every single one of those teams wish they had done that, right? That's the part that's the reality of the whole situation, right? Let's see here. Robert Allen, agreed, Jake, but who did you like, Young or Stroud? I know who I like, and I still think he's going to be a great quarterback. It's just a mess down there. I'll let Jake answer too, but for me, Bryce Young is still everything I've seen. Bryce Young was the better quarterback. Now, we'll see if he can put it together once the pieces get put in place around him, right? But right now, you can't. The way I seen it, Tim, I had Bryce Young slightly ahead of C.J. Stroud. Matter of fact, let me pull it up here.
I thought you were going to say, who I like. I thought you were going to say Will Levis.
Well, I actually did. It's funny you mentioned it. So here we go. This is my draft board, okay, from last year. So if you'll notice, I do have the grades. So if you'll look in the D column there, right, notice how it says negative 2.6. The lower the number, the higher the grade for me. Don't ask how I do it. The show's not long enough for me to explain, okay? But I had Jalen Carter, number 1, at a negative 2.6. At number 2, I had Bryce Young at negative 1.3. So basically, the tiers come in 5-point increments, okay? So these guys are in tier 1. Tier 2 starts, and it goes from 1 point to 5 point to 4.9 points, okay? So in tier 2 on my board, I had Will Anderson and Christian Gonzalez. Then in tier 3, I had C.J. Stroud, and then Will Levis in that same tier there as well, okay? And then you got to go down significantly to find the next quarterback. Or no, you don't. Anthony Richardson's right there as well. We all kind of seen him pop this year a little bit. I think that's all the quarterbacks that popped up. Yes. So those 4, that's how I had it. Now, with that being said, when I had a listener, Tim, they actually messaged me, right, and said, hey, how would you grade these quarterbacks? I told them I don't grade the quarterbacks. There's specific people that I trust more than others with scouting information. There's like 5 factors that I put into my scouting board, and it's all people. It's designed to remove the noise of the combine until the combine hits. So I want true on-field evaluation first and foremost. I could care less what someone does in their underwear on turf indoors with no other elements and no one chasing them, right? That's just kind of the way I see it. So compiling all that information together, I usually don't go, this is the guy I like the most. I'm taking other people's opinions and putting it into a database. Now, when the listener asked me to do it, I went through and watched the tape and judged all 4. I actually, in my notes, put Bryce Young, number 1, C.J. Stroud, number 2, in parentheses, C.J. Stroud is the better passer. That's what I came up with. So it was, can C.J. Stroud translate to the next level? I feel like Bryce Young is kind of built for it. And that doesn't mean you're going to have success right out of the gate. Obviously, what determines that's the people around you, the coaches around you, the scheme around you, all those things. You might be catching a scheme that's cooling off, right, Tim? And then, we kind of seen it with LaFleur's scheme here of lately. He's having to change things up a bit. So
you can also look really good on your college film and then get to the big show and crash and burn. Not saying either of these guys have done that because clearly they haven't, but looking at film is tough because the minute you strap on your big boy pants and play in the NFL, nobody gives a rip what you did in college anymore. It's all about what have you done for me lately. So, it's always fun to watch especially the quarterbacks, their career ascent. So time will tell with these guys, but I think Stroud is looking pretty good right now for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Jake Shavink said he liked both of those quarterbacks. Let's see. We'll come back to that, Carly. Right? Let's finish this real quick. Jake Shavink says Young, which is a giant L so far. Yeah, and again, though, what did Frank Reich do in Indy? Fell flat on his face, right? Got ran out of town. So it's hard for me to just say, okay, Bryce Young, he's a flop, right? And not that Jake's saying that. I'm just kind of talking out loud here. I don't think Frank Reich's a good coach. I don't think he's a good leader. I don't think he's a good coach. You take someone like Bryce Young and put him with Doug Peterson, right? Put him with Kyle Shanahan or somebody like that. I guarantee you Bryce Young's balling out. That's just me personally. I could be wrong, though, for sure. Let's see here. Carly Ray in the chat said, I've been wanting to start my own business, but been too scared of the commitment and process. But I've always ended up with crappy bosses. Clayton's inspiring me over here. It's kind of like putting together a budget, Carly. Anytime I've sat down with several people to help them put together a budget, their finances were a wreck. And when we sit down, I love looking them in the eye. I've probably done this with about a half a dozen people. I look them in the eye, Tim, and I go, that feeling you feel right now? It sucks, don't it? Like your finances are a wreck. You don't know what you're going to do, right? I said, think about it real hard. Just take 10 seconds to think about it. It's all about the change. When we get up from this table, it's going to be like 1,000 pounds have lifted off your shoulder. It's going to feel like you've gotten a raise because we're going to cut out all the nonsense that you're wasting money on, that you don't even realize you're wasting money on. It's kind of that same mindset, Carly. It seems scary starting your own business side because I'm telling you, the system is set up to make you think that. But when you go out on your own and you realize just how easy it is, if you're passionate and you're willing to work, if you're not willing to work, it ain't going to work, just like anything in life. When you get out there and you do it, I'm telling you, man, I look back sometimes and I go, how in the world did I ever work for another human being? I don't know how I did it. It's very, very relieving. That makes sense. So let's get back to the Packers. Larry in the chat says, hasn't Kenny Clark generally played better in the second half of the seasons? I think there is some truth to that, Larry. The two players that come to mind for me, Tim, is A.J. Dillon and Kenny Clark. Seems like they do turn it on a little later in the year. Let's hope that happens, right? Is that how you remember it playing out?
I think Larry's got a point here. Yeah, there's certainly that feeling. Even these last couple of years with the struggles that we have, I think some of his best, certainly his best tape comes in the later parts of the year. I do think about, the 2021 season was a tough pill to swallow. But yeah, I believe Kenny did play a lot better ball in the second half of that season. So, who knows? There's a lot of ball left, right? We've got a lot of football left until we don't, of course. These next few games are going to fly by pretty quick. But, and you're right. A.J. Dillon, too, of course, man. That's a cold weather back. He likes playing November, December football. So, but yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Kenny does seem to step it up in the second half of the season. I think, with him being a little banged up this year and being kind of off and on, in and out, limited snaps with the issues that he's had physically, I think as he gets his legs under him again, he's going to be hungry to come out here and perform. And especially watching the young players that he's worked with this offseason and preseason, seeing some of the success that, some of these guys are having up there, TJ Slayton in particular, I think that inspires a guy like Kenny. So, you made the comment about Jair wanting to play with Valentine. It's the same thing with Kenny. I think, you see the young guys out there banging heads and you want to get out there too and give it your all. And, you said that just a few minutes ago. It's never been an effort thing with Kenny Clark. This guy's never shown up not giving 100% on the field. It's right. Just, what is your 100%? What is that producing for us? So I think Larry's right. Second half of the season could be the upswing for Kenny Clark in this defense.
Yeah, and when I went back and looked at it here, excuse me, 2022, his worst games of the season, and Larry was spot on. Week 8, 37.9. Week 9, 32.8. Week 10, 47.1. Then it goes 65.5, 46.3, 63.2, 69.5, 61.6, 89.9, 76.4. Definitely his two of his best games of the season came in week 17 and 18, and his three worst games of the season were right smack dab in the middle. So I think there is a lot to what you said there. And again, that's according to PFF, Larry. Obviously, it's not the tell-all, end-all, but I think it's a great tool nonetheless. So let's see what else we got here in the chat. Here we go. Bill in the chat says, I always advise young people to follow their passion. Unfortunately, the pressure from our culture makes them follow the money, which inevitably will result in misery, man. It's tough. Again, I think when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be sitting there going, you draw your last breath, I have a hard time believing anyone's going to go, God, I wish I'd have made more money. Probably not going to happen. Yeah, I think there are some people that chase their dreams that they're probably a little more at peace, thinking, heck yeah, dude, that was what a hell of a run. That was a hell of a run. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's see here. What else we got in the chat? I like this. Paul Robertson says the mayor of Door County starts producing after daylight savings time. No doubt. Hey, he's looked good here lately. And again, the run blocking's been absolutely horrendous. As we say on this show, booty cheeks. So you kind of do what you got to do, right? I'm hoping AJ can play himself into a contract extension that makes sense for the Packers. I'm not saying they should break the bank to keep him. I just want AJ Dillon to be a Packer long term. I love that dude. I think he's everything that's right about being a Green Bay Packer. I think he loves the area. I think he loves everything about Wisconsin. Wisconsin's embraced him. He's embraced Wisconsin. I think it would be awesome to have him stay in Green Bay. How do you feel about AJ right now, Tim? Do you kind of feel like, hey, I want him back for the right price, or is it something you think I'd probably be okay with moving on?
I've been on the fence. Because all those things you said are true. He's a total, for all intents and purposes, he's a Wisconsin guy through and through right now. And, loves playing in Green Bay. But we always talked about it. All of that makes you feel warm and fuzzy and everything. But at the end of the day, you got to do your job and you got to produce on the field. And as of late, we've seen that the typical midseason towards the end of the season swing of A.J. Dillon playing his best football. And you know what? That's fine. We don't need him to do much but be consistent in this offense. Right. That's all we need you to do is be consistent, protect the football. He's done that. So if he continues to play consistent and continues to fill that role, I think, for a team-friendly deal or a fair deal, let's bring him back. If it makes sense, absolutely. I don't want to run him out of town by no means, but I also don't want, we don't want a Darnell Savage situation here. Right. We don't want to repeat that all over again on the offensive side of the ball. But I'm not going to say I don't want to see AJ Dillon in Green Bay. Are you kidding? Of course.
Right. Yeah,
absolutely. But, we got another running back we'd like to see stay in Green Bay as well, too. So,
yeah. So when you look at AJ Dillon's PFF grades, starting with week 1, this is how it's gone: 55, 66.9, 62.3, 56.3. And then, of course, we start to approach the daylight savings time, 72.8, 70.2, 64.2, 71.5. So definitely, his 3 best games came in the last 4-game stretch. So let's see if he can continue to turn it on. Again, his PFF grade for the year is now up to 70.6. Not bad at all. Last year, he finished with 81.4. The year before, 86.7 and 81.4 his rookie year. So let's hope he can get back up there in the 80s. And we'll see it on the field. We'll see it on the tape if it does happen. There's no doubt about that. Let's do this, Tim. We got a video we wanted to key up for you guys here. This is, we show a lot of Packers.com videos and kind of final thoughts and all that stuff. We've got the Packers final thoughts, but I thought it would be cool to dip into the Pittsburgh side real. So let's hear what Mike Tomlin had to say on their local show. They got like a 2-minute clip of Tomlin kind of talking about the Packers and talking about some of the strengths. And oddly enough, we didn't mean to do this, but we played it perfect, Tim. He actually mentions A.J. Dillon being the closer in this video. So let's check out Mike Tomlin here.
Well, the Steelers got some much-needed rest after playing their first Thursday night football game of the season. And under Coach Tomlin, they're 12-4 after 9 days rest, including 6-2 at home. For more on how they can keep it going, it's time for your keys to the game presented by your neighborhood Ford store with Bob and Coach. Guys.
All right. Thanks very much, Missy. Coach Tomlin, let's talk about, the keys to the
I don't want to be disrespectful, but my man right there looked a little sauced up. Anyway, here we go.
This one, because you definitely have a game at home. You want to win this game. It's a very competitive AFC North. Everybody seems to be winning at this point.
Mm-hmm. Possession down football is big because it tees up the attrition component of play. We have 2 capable backs. They have 2 capable backs. It's important that we convert third down so that we can allow our backs to make their presence felt on the game. And I imagine we better win some on the other side to minimize their 2 backs. Dillon in particular, him being a finisher. We played him up there 2 years ago in 2021. I thought he wore us down at the end of the game. And so possession down play, teeing up the running game component, the attrition component, I think is going to be a significant kind of undercurrent of this game.
And your defensive line, it should help quite a bit having Cam back, but also you have second round pick in there. When he's been in there, it's been good. How important is that part of this game, specifically to Green Bay?
We need them all, but D-line plays big every week, man. Without the bigs up front, man, you don't have a chance of playing really good defense. That's why we invest in that position group the way that we do. But a lot of people do. They got some quality talent in their front as well. It's the National Football League. There better be an investment there. If not, you're going to be picking really early in the draft.
One of the things you guys have done very well is the giveaway takeaway. You're +8, one of the best marks in the league. In a game like this, how important is that?
That's always our agenda. So I'd be making it up if I act like it's super important this week. That is always our agenda. It's just a recipe for us in terms of how we construct victory.
All right, Coach, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, the Steelers.
All right.
Clayton, you're on mute, buddy.
I said, look at our guy right here, man. Tell me he ain't coming in hot. What's this guy?
Thanks very much, Missy. Coach.
Thanks very much. I'm just saying, I think he's got a big coffee mug over there too, maybe.
You see, Missy had her football outfit on too in that report.
Don't you do this, Tim. It's funny too. Look at Paul Robertson. He's spot on with this, Tim. Absolutely.
Oh man. Oh
Still
my
waiting
God.
for Omar Epps to star in the Mike Tomlin documentary. I'm just saying, I think Omar Epps' mama might have spent some time in Pittsburgh. Probably down in Tampa way back in the day, maybe wherever he was. No, honestly, Omar Epps is probably about the same age as Tomlin because Tomlin's pretty young. But yeah. Anyway, we always got somebody. How dare you, Paul, suggest such a thing, right? He's like, man, all I said was he looked like him. You're the one saying they're running around cheating.
You gotta love Mike Tomlin, though, man. Talk about a guy who just, exudes football. That guy is football. What's really telling is Coach still had his whistle around his neck during the press time. Clearly his head is on football all the time, and Mike Tomlin's probably forgot more football than I'll ever know in my lifetime. And it's a treat to just watch him. That was great right there, pulling that clip, Clayton, because it gives us some insight into the other side here, and to hear him speak about AJ Dillon being a finisher, and to see how AJ has turned it up these last probably 3 weeks here, and is really finishing these runs, and giving us that extra push. Like he said, Dillon wore them down the last time we met, and we're going to need to do that again tomorrow. And I think Coach Tomlin's right. It's going to be a slugfest, man. This game is going to be won and lost on the ground tomorrow. I really believe that, both in the trenches and with our running games. So that was great insight, Clayton. I love it.
Cool. Glad you did. Hey, this is what I loved about it. In the comments, if you can look at the very bottom, I'll read it for you, Tim. It's really small. The second comment on that video, there was only 15 comments. The second comment says cheeseheads everywhere. So evidently, the Packer fans are everywhere in Pittsburgh, which is a good sign, man. Let's get loud down there tomorrow. I know we got Jim Tyson's going to be there tomorrow. He may call into the pregame show. We'll see. But
let's get loud. It's been over 50 years since we won a game in Pittsburgh.
It's a long time, Tim. That is a long time. Trying to see who's winning this game here. I know Georgia, I think they were pretty much deadlocked, Georgia and Ole Miss. Of course, you got Brock Bowers. I know Jake Shavink's definitely Brock Bowers is #1 fan down there, tied in Georgia. But I was also trying to see how Michigan and who are they playing? Michigan and Penn State? Is that right? Am I thinking right?
Oh, that's a wrap. I believe Michigan got the dub.
Did they? Okay, gotcha.
Yep. And there's an emotional outburst from their interim head coach as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you'll see the few F-bombs on live television. No big deal.
Nah, it'd be all right, right? Now you got me searching Twitter before we go off the air here. We might have to key that up. Let's see here. There was something else I was going to hit on just now. Gosh, it left me.
You want to do the Matt LaFleur?
Yeah, let's go to the Matt LaFleur. Well, actually,
or do you want to do
let's do the Packers daily final thoughts real quick, and then I'm going to comb through Twitter and see if I can find that Michigan coach real quick. That's what you get on this show, guys. That's what you get. All right, here we go. Here's this is from Packers Daily. Again, you can find it at Packers.com. You can find it on their YouTube channel. You can find it on Twitter for free. Just make sure you go give them a like, share it, all that good stuff. Here is Wes Hakowitz and Mike Spofford, what they had to say. Pretty much final thoughts on the game in Pittsburgh.
Back on the road, it's off to Pittsburgh. The Steel City awaits. Packers and Steelers, time for final thoughts. All right, Weston, what's at stake?
A winning streak, Michael. The Packers took care of business last week at Lambeau Field, finally getting that much-needed victory, and now they're looking to build upon that. It is a tough opponent. You're going to Pittsburgh for this one, and it's not going to get any easier, but if the Green Bay Packers can build some momentum here in November, get closer to that 500 mark.
Yeah, and this game is all about winning one on the road again. The Packers haven't gotten a road victory since week one, the opener back in Chicago, and the city of Pittsburgh hasn't exactly been kind. The Packers haven't won a game there in the regular season since 1970. It's time to break that streak. Weston, who's heating up? Presented by Aurora Heated Apparel.
Luke Musgrave, the Packers rookie tight end, I thought played really well, specifically in the second half. First, you had that 25-yard corner route from Jordan Love, the type of play they've been kind of struggling to connect on, and then he finishes the game strong, 20 yards right up the middle of the field. His first career touchdown pass. Tight ends go so far in this league, Michael. If the Packers can have him do that again against Pittsburgh, could yield good results.
And I'll go on the defensive side of the ball, but stick with the draft class. 7th-round rookie Carrington Valentine. He was thrown into a big role last week right after the trade of Rasul Douglas. He hadn't played all that well at Denver, but he really showed up against the Rams. Multiple pass breakups, really, really aggressive. Jair Alexander popped up on the injury report again this week, and you just get the feeling that Carrington Valentine is going to be a guy this defense has to rely on against the Steelers. Wes, I say the Packers win this game if they protect the football and if they're the better team in the fourth quarter. This is how the Steelers are 5-3. They are +8 in turnover margin, and they have had fourth quarter comebacks all season long. To win a game like this, you have to beat the home team at its own game. That's what it's going to take to get in the win column.
I agree, Michael, and for the Packers, I think it comes back to run defense. That has sort of been the thing that has kind of pushed along this turnaround for the Packers D. And you look at these last 2 weeks, 130 rushing yards allowed, allowing less than 2.3 yards per carry, I believe. They're going to be going up against a tough force in Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, two guys that complement each other really well. But if Green Bay can stop that run once again for a third straight week, it makes life exceedingly easier for that secondary.
No question about it. And with that, we'll sign off.
All right, there you go. They do such a good job over there, man. Love
Dude,
those
Mike
guys.
and Wes are awesome, dude.
Yeah.
You know, those guys know football, and they know this team. I love it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Looks like here in the chat, let's make one final pass through before we wrap up. Larry in the chat says, I'd like to see Jordan Love just find his own way and sling it rather than trying to emulate Aaron Rodgers. You see a lot of Aaron Rodgers in him for sure, trying to throw off platform, that quick twist as he throws, you know, rather than just stepping into the throw. You know, that wasn't his natural throwing motion. So not only has he got coaches trying to coach him on every little thing as far as the accuracy, the mechanical aspect, but he also got some influence from Aaron, right? And again, I always refer back to what Steve Calhoun said, his personal quarterback coach. He said he'd catch him doing stuff that Aaron does, and he'd go, hey, we can't do that. Aaron's an alien. Aaron can do that, but Aaron's an alien. All right, we can't do that. So
want to emulate Aaron Rodgers? Let's use the football IQ. Emulate that. Let's pre-snap, post-snap reads, right? Tricking that defense to adjust and get into a set that you want them to be in. You know, things that Aaron Rodgers used to do. He used to play with defenses like they were a toy. You know, and that's an attribute I'd like to see. If we want to get any Aaron Rodgers game in Jordan Love, it's definitely that football IQ aspect, not the off-platform throw and the pretty wrist flick. I think mechanics are. I don't know. I'm old school. I'm one of those guys, man. Hey, throw the ball however you feel comfortable throwing the ball, man. What's the best way to get the ball there? I think it's you can do too much tweaking and cause damage to a guy's game. I mean, look at Phillip Rivers, man. That guy had one of the ugliest passing motions of all time. And he played, 17 years in the NFL? So, You know,
Dude,
mechanics are great, but if you're throwing to double covered guys, it doesn't matter what your mechanics are.
He'd let that thing go, and every time I remember thinking, it's never going to get there. It's never going to get there, and it always got there.
Looked like a shot put, man.
Yeah, unbelievable. Jake Shavink in the house says Georgia's cooking tonight. So is Jaden Daniels. So Georgia's up by a couple scores now on Ole Miss. Obviously, that's 2 top 10 teams going at it with several pro prospects there, for sure. So let's get ready to wrap this thing up. Tim, you got any parting thoughts, and anyone else, you got anything else you need to add in the chat? Let's do it now. I'll try to get to it, but we're going to wrap this big bear up right now.
Final thoughts. Let's see, going into tomorrow's game, run the ball. Run the ball, run the ball, and then run the ball some more. And then when the run gets stuffed and it doesn't look like it's working, you know what you do? You keep running the ball. That's what you keep doing. And then we get that beautifully timed signature Matt LaFleur play action boot call, and we take our shot. That's how we need to beat this team. And defensively, hey, rinse and repeat. Do exactly what you guys did last week. You know, create turnovers. Don't be a liability out there. Play together, communicate, and keep going downhill because Pittsburgh is going to try to run this ball too. So that's my final thoughts, man. Run the ball, stop the run. That's how we win tomorrow.
That simple. It's that simple. But it's not. But we want it to be that simple, don't we? Let's hope they can do it. For sure.
Sounds simple over here from my cozy basement here in Green Bay, right?
Right. Hey, it's better than walking out of somebody's house early in the morning with no shirt on, though. You know what I mean? I'm not giving names. I'm just saying.
On there.
So, with that being said, we're going to wrap this thing up. Tim, I did get confirmation. Ryan's got plans tomorrow, busy with the family. So, if you want to join me for the pregame show, that sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool, guys. We're gonna do a pregame show in the morning. It'll be basically Good Morning Lambeau, but it's going to be all the latest information on the inactives, all that stuff, right before game time. So we'll probably go live at let's see, probably 11:30. Let's go 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern. Okay, 10:30 Central. That'll run us up to about 30 minutes before kickoff. We'll get you guys all the latest information. That'll give everybody time as soon as the postgame show drops down. Everybody got time to go grab something to eat, grab something to drink, get in front of the TV, and get ready for the opening kickoff. So, yeah, with that, I want to thank everybody in the chat. You guys were awesome tonight. Give a special shout-out to all of the Super Chats, Josh Martin, Tolgrel, Bleed Green. You guys are phenomenal. Really appreciate you supporting the stream. Everybody, like I said in the chat, we appreciate y'all joining the conversation. Hope to have you back tomorrow for the pregame show. Also, any YouTube members, 11:59 p.m. tonight Eastern time is the cutoff. Okay, all of our YouTube members will be put on the wheel that we're going to spin tomorrow during the postgame show to give away a Dave Robinson autographed jersey. Okay, Pro Football Hall of Famer, obviously played linebacker for Lombardi. Going to give away an autographed jersey of his tomorrow. So if you're not a YouTube member, just go to the YouTube page, click join, become a member of the PTA posse, and that'll get you into that drawing. So with that being said, really appreciate everybody's time. And for those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. One more thing right here, Tim.
You call me anything you want, but don't call me that.
As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.
The power sweep actually is the lead play in our offense.
Double tackle, take the defensive end. If he's over him, if he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Pull back and tell him, take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one goes. You go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.